time, welcome. Here at Nido Marketing and Montessori Thrive, we host weekly town halls every Thursday throughout the school year from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. They're always free to join, so feel free to invite any fellow Montessori leaders and administrators and spread the word. The more the merrier. We always post these in several Facebook communities for school leadership, as well as our own socials and our own Facebook group. So it should be easy to find the link to join and register. In today's town hall, we're going to be talking about nurturing leads into enrollment. This is a big part of what we do as school administrators. We want to keep our programs full because we know that we can run them in the best quality when we have all of our spots filled and even maybe a wait list. That really helps our school grow and thrive. Throughout this call, please feel free to unmute yourself at any point to ask a question or share an idea, and you can also utilize the chat. We're also live on our Facebook group, so if you're joining us from there, you can also leave any questions in the comment section, and we'll make sure to get those answered as well. Just a brief overview of what we're going to be discussing today. So we're going to start by just doing a brief overview of a general admissions process that a Montessori school would have, how schools can generate leads, particularly on their school website. We're going to be talking about CRM best practices. A CRM is a client relationship manager, and this is just software or a way that you can organize all the data that's coming in through your lead generators and make sure you're communicating with them and marketing to them properly so that they can turn into enrollments. We'll talk a little bit about growing your email list, email nurture campaigns, which are really effective in the Montessori space, and just some best practices for managing your wait list. Hopefully you get to the point where you have a wait list, and then you can worry about managing it. And we'll have some time for discussion and Q&A at the end. Also, as I mentioned, there's time for Q&A and questions throughout the entire presentation, so feel free to just utilize the chat if you have any questions. First, let's get to know one another. If you can drop in the chat what school you're joining us from and why you joined today's call. Are you looking to grow your enrollment? Are you looking for some tips on how you can nurture any leads that come in through your website into eventually becoming enrolled families? I'll give you guys a moment to just write in the chat or unmute yourself if you want. Vicky joining us from Amelia Island, always looking for tips to improve the enrollment process. Beth is here from Crystal Lake Montessori School to grow our enrollment. Great. Okay, and that's really what a lot of these town halls will focus on in one way or another, as just best practices for growing your enrollment, whether we talk about school websites, whether we talk about social media, it all comes down to the same goal, which is to grow your enrollment. So hopefully these tips are going to help you. First, let's dive into just an overview of the admissions process. It's here in the chat. Ben, Director of Enrollment Management and Waterfront Montessori in Jersey City, looking to grow. Welcome, Ben. We've got a good group here. Okay, great. So yes, just analyzing just a basic admissions process. Maybe at your school it looks a little bit different, but for the most part, we like to break it up into these 8 steps: lead, inquiry, tour scheduled, tour completed, application submitted, child visit, enrollment offer, and enrolled. Some people might do this in different orders. Some people might not have a particular step, but this is maybe what it will look like. And we're really going to focus on the number one step, the lead first, because generating leads is important. You want to make sure you're getting quality leads, whether that's through online marketing, whether that's through your website, whether that's through your social media, and you want to make sure that you're able to nurture them throughout all of the other steps so that they can eventually enroll. So a lead refers to a prospective parent who has expressed interest in your school. This is usually demonstrated by them taking an action on your website, such as filling out a contact form, subscribing to a newsletter. Maybe you have that option on your website, or downloading a resource. Maybe you have a white paper on your website. I'll show a couple of examples of lead generators we have on our sample school website. And really having a way to generate these leads is hugely valuable to schools looking to grow their enrollment. It's important to have a way to generate them. So a couple of ways that you can generate leads through your school website, which is honestly the most effective way, because again, your website, you own it. It's free. You don't have to pay to post on your own website. And it's also just content that you own and you can give out to families that provides value. A couple of examples would be tour scheduling. Believe it or not, if you have automated tour scheduling, this is a way that you're collecting lead information. A parent would have to input their email address and phone number while they're confirming a tour time that they would like to come in for your school. Also, if someone is scheduling a tour through your website, that means they're extremely interested. That's a big commitment for someone to make, to actually come in physically for a tour. Things like white papers, which are informative resources where you can explain a little bit more about the benefits of Montessori or Montessori parenting, or how parents can choose schools, whether it's looking at traditional versus Montessori. Things like quizzes, those are always fun sometimes to include on your website. We have a pop-up one on our sample website. It's a quiz that's is Montessori right for your child? ? Take this quiz and find out. Just a fun way for parents to interact. E-booklets or parenting resources as well are things that you can offer in exchange for contact information. Of course, our inquiry forms are contact forms. Another one that is really one that we try to convince the schools that we work with to consider are gated tuition requests. Oftentimes, tuition is the biggest pain point when it comes to getting parents to enroll in our school. So by having a great page that leads parents into a gated tuition request, you're able to get information on their contact information. And that way, whenever you deliver the tuition immediately to their inbox, you can follow up with other communication, such as an email nurture or a check-in to see if they're interested in coming in for a tour, etc. Different lead generators are going to show you a lot about your lead as well. Their level of commitment or decision-making stage. So a parent who is scheduling a tour is much later in their decision-making process than a parent who might be requesting a white paper or just something to learn more about the basics of Montessori. So it tells you a lot about how you can nurture that lead, what kind of email campaigns to send them, how to communicate with them following them clicking on that specific lead generator. So something to consider. You can kind of tailor those campaigns following the type of leads that you're offering on your website. So here are just some examples of the ones we have on our Nido site. So it's nidosite.com if you're looking for some inspiration. That's our Montessori template website. And here's just an example of a white paper. So Montessori or conventional, what's best for your family, read the article, and all a parent would have to do is fill out their name and email. And as soon as they click that send me the article, they'll immediately receive it in their email. And in turn, you'll have access to their contact information and you can send them a tailored follow-up response later, or you can trigger a campaign. Here's just a general contact or inquiry form. Again, you want to keep the fields very limited on this. Usually first, last name, email, and phone number are more than enough. If you put too many fields in there, a lot of schools will also do, any questions, and that can be an optional field. And this is just an example of how we gated our tuition. Here it says request tuition information. Tuition varies by program. Again, you're getting that email information from them so you can follow up with them. Because a lot of times if they don't like what they see immediately with the tuition, they'll just look elsewhere first before really, coming in for a tour and seeing the value that you're offering or even hearing from you. So this just creates that extra layer of contact that you can have to hopefully sway them to enroll. So generating leads equals having a list of prospective enrollments, because when people are taking these actions and engaging on your website, they're showing immediate interest in your school and your programs. And once you are able to generate these leads using lead magnets and lead generators, then you can start thinking about strategies and systems you can have in place in order to maximize those leads and turn them hopefully into enrollments. Any questions before we move on to a CRM or client relationship manager? Do you use lead generators on your website? At least one or two? Most schools will have a general inquiry form. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about a CRM because this is really a tool that you can use to nurture and communicate effectively with families, because that's ultimately what's going to take you to from the lead stage to hopefully the enrollment stage, is how you communicate and guide parents through every other step of the admissions process. A Montessori CRM is a cloud-based software application designed to organize and automate communication with parents. This is going to make communicating so much more seamless. It's going to work with your website through automations to capture information and automatically respond to inquiries and deliver that information immediately. If you have lead generators on your website and you're not using automations, it's going to make your school look a little bit bad, in the sense that when somebody clicks on a request an article, they should receive it immediately. If not, chances are they're going to be like, wait, I gave over my email information for no reason. I just checked my inbox and I still haven't received the article. In an hour or two, they might forget about it. Later, they're just like, you know what, I don't want to read it at this point. So having these automations in place can be made so much easier with the CRM. We'll talk a little bit about best practices for using a CRM if you're looking to nurture your leads into enrollments. So let's talk a little bit about the CRM basics. So when using a CRM, it's basically going to help you organize all of the contacts that are coming in through these lead generators and lead magnets on your website. These are people who have interacted on your website, or they've or perhaps you've entered them manually into the CRM. Maybe they came to an open house and you collected their email information, so then later you can input that in your CRM. Of course, the opportunities equal those new students. These are the prospective students that you want to track through the admissions pipeline, which is that 8-step process that we looked at earlier in the presentation. And each prospective student represents an opportunity for enrollment. When you use a CRM or software like this to help you keep track of your admissions process, you'll have a variety of fields and custom fields that you can use in order to keep track of everyone that comes through. It's important to have this really well organized. So fields, for instance, this is the pieces of information that comprise a contact, such as their first, last name, email, or phone. These are usually the ones that come in through those basic forms that you have on your website. And then you also maybe have some custom fields. These are additional fields that you can add for all contacts if you feel that it's helpful for your tracking. For example, things like the child's name, the date of birth, program interest. This is maybe helpful if you get a lot of leads of parents who are thinking really far ahead. They have a 1-year-old, but they're interested in a primary program. You can say, well, how old is your child? Oh, they're 9 months old right now, but we're really interested in the future. And you can keep a note to follow up with them later. So those are just some options you can have available with the CRM. Tags are labels that you use to organize your contacts in different categories. This will allow you to segment your list into different groups when needed. Tags can indicate anything, but typically it's the type of contact, and contacts can have more than one tag, and you can also trigger off of tags. So for instance, maybe you have a tag for, everyone who's potentially going to enroll in a primary program, or somebody who might be ready for a toddler program, and you can trigger certain campaigns to them. Or somebody who's at a specific stage in the admissions process, you can create a tag for everyone who's already scheduled a tour. So you can decide what kind of tags are helpful for you to utilize. Best practices is to use tags consistently. Plan on how you're going to use them and how you're going to come up with consistent naming schemes. Examples: prospective parent, current parent, alumni parent. So just because somebody is enrolled in your school already doesn't mean you're done with marketing to them. You might want to retain them in the future, so you can move them from a certain tag, such as prospective parent, to current parent. Then maybe you had a great experience with that family and you still want to keep in touch with them. Maybe you want to have a future testimonial, or you never know, you might want to have a parent ambassador or student ambassador. You can then switch them to an alumni parent tag. So all of these are options: donor, corporate donor, staff, newsletter subscriber, blog subscriber. And some people might fit under several tags, but you can sit down and think about what kind of relationships you want to nurture with your community And this will really help you stay on top of your communication. Ultimately, if you want to nurture people to enroll at your school, you're going to have good communication. That's really how you're going to hopefully sway them into your community. Custom values, this is getting a little bit more complex now, and I assure you, if you're using a CRM already, you've probably already practiced and figured out how to use it. And if not, if you work with us, then we'll help you get used to these things. But this is how you can substitute a code word for a specific value across a CRM. Example, you can assign POC, first name, to be the first name of the person or point of contact, typically your admissions director or head of school. This way, if a person's name changes in the future, you only need to change it in one place in the CRM. These are things that make life a lot easier when you don't have to keep track of every single lead or every single person who's communicating manually. It's just going to save you a lot of time and energy, especially if we're getting a lot of leads in through our website, which hopefully we are. Here's just an example of how it can work. You can set a custom value as POC full name. That way, when you write a series of emails, it will always be signed correctly. So just something to think about if you're looking at, you always want to make sure that whenever you're nurturing leads, you're always using customizable emails. You don't want to address someone as hi parent or hi prospective parent. You want to use their name and you want to sign with a real name as well. So again, for example, you want to make sure to use these custom values in order to stay on top of keeping all of your communication personalized, and keep track of all the information that might change in the future. For example, things like staff names, staff titles, email addresses, phone numbers, website links, Zoom links, all this is made easier. Automations, this is really what's important when it comes to nurturing your leads. Because if things, again, are not delivered automatically, it builds distrust and it makes you look a little bit unprofessional. So you want to make sure that you're running these automations. It also saves you a lot of time if you're using email marketing, which you absolutely should be if you're looking to nurture leads and get parents to enroll. So campaigns, this is a big part of automations. They're going to be made so much easier when you use a CRM or CRM software of some sort. We've had several town halls before on email marketing where we've talked about, it's not pushy. I know in the Montessori space, we don't like to come across as salesy. That's not our nature. But a well-crafted email campaign can offer so much value to parents. And again, a parent can always unsubscribe to an email. So it's really not as invasive as you think. If a parent is truly, done receiving emails from you, they're not interested at all they have to do is scroll to the bottom of an email and unsubscribe. Everyone is familiarized enough with email marketing at this point that they know to do that. So you're not going to be bothering a parent per se if you're using email campaigns. It's also a free way to market. You don't have to pay anything to send somebody an email. And also, this is a person that has shown direct interest, whether that was giving you their contact information directly or going through your website and engaging with your lead magnets. So I highly recommend using email marketing if you're not already. And you can utilize CRMs or automations to help you run these campaigns and trigger them. Again, it's very important to make sure you have everything labeled correctly and you're using the right tags when you get a new contact. But again, campaigns are a way to automate a series of emails. You can configure these campaigns. You can plan the email content. You can plan the frequency. Maybe you want to send one every 2 days for a week, and then maybe after that, once every other week. You can decide on the frequency that works. And of course, the quantity of emails that someone is going to receive after they request a lead generator or a lead magnet, after they schedule a tour, maybe once they've enrolled. All of these are opportunities that you can use to trigger an email campaign. And yes, email campaigns might take a little bit of time for you to write, but they're going to pay you back with save time and effort when you can use them time and time again. Again, when you write an email campaign, let's say a parent schedules a tour, you write a 5 email campaign, you only have to write it once, and then you put it on your CRM, and every time a parent schedules a tour, that campaign is triggered. So you only really have to do it once and maybe edit it or review it every time you change your tour scheduling process. Some best practices when it comes to email campaigns. So you want to think about the emails that you send over and over and automate those. You want to use custom fields as well to personalize your emails. We've talked about this. Avoid doing the high parent or high prospective parent and try to use their first name. Use different campaigns for different purposes. There's a lot of creative ways that schools can use email campaigns. Again, it's not always necessarily for prospective parents. It can be for retention purposes as well. And you really want to make sure you find the right voice and consider your audience. They may not know that much about Montessori, especially if it's a specific email campaign. Maybe they just requested a white paper and they're really early in their decision-making process. They might not have a lot of background in Montessori. So you can tailor an email campaign that really explains, the basics of Montessori and why it's so beneficial and why they should consider it. So really be strategic as to what you want them to know. And I'll give an example of an email campaign order and template in a couple of slides just to give you guys an idea. Triggers, again, this works if you're using CRM software. This is what's going to control the automation of the CRM. How do they work? Think of them as the if-then pairs. For example, if a parent requests a certain lead magnet, then it will start that campaign. And this is how you can set it up in your CRM. So every time a parent requests tuition information, then they're going to receive a 6 email campaign from you, explaining the real value of Montessori over the span of 2 weeks. So you can decide that and input it into your CRM. And this is what's going to slowly nurture them and provide resources, insightful information, maybe blog articles, all can be a part of your email campaign. Any questions? We'll talk a little bit more about email marketing later on and actually formatting the content in the email.
Camila, this is Wally.
Hi, Wally.
You mentioned about there are some campaigns that are triggered automatically, right? CRM, depending on where you are. Now, is it recommended that you basically go and do some push campaigns from the list of parents you have, depending on at what stage they are in? I mean, is that also done independently of the automated emails?
So, sorry, you're asking.
So, well, let me clarify. Basically, let's say if I have a bunch of parents who had inquired something and nothing really happened, they're sitting in the pipeline. Let's say a month has passed, and would it make sense or do you recommend that you essentially somehow, where they're in the pipeline, you can basically select those and say, I haven't heard back from you for so and so. I want to know if you're still interested and things like that. Do you also subscribe to that kind of a campaign occasionally, every so often?
Yeah, you can certainly do that. If you send somebody an email campaign per se, and then after that they're still not responding or they haven't checked in with you or scheduled a tour or taken the next step, you can either reach out to them personally at that point, or you can also just put them on your newsletter email list and continue to send them your newsletter as you would all of your contacts. And that way they're still getting emails from you, and they can get that reminder. Maybe in 2 months they see an email newsletter and they're like, oh, I never really checked in with them. But again, keep sending them emails until they unsubscribe. I don't know if Camille has anything to add to that. I see her nodding.
Yeah, typically that's what I would do is, once they get through that initial nurture campaign, and if it's still, crickets on their end, then I would drop them into, like, especially, you're publishing a blog. That's just an excuse to email your list, and it just kind of keeps them, keeps you in their inbox so that they're reminded about you. And that being said, I mean, that's kind of an automatic, easy thing because you're already sending out that weekly email anyway. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to, after a month or whatever, to kind of have another, maybe just 1 or 2 email sequence to reach out to them again and say, you requested this, a couple months ago. Do you have any questions at this point or anything like that? It doesn't hurt, as long as you're not bombarding them with emails. I think it's fine.
But there are, obviously they have to be in a certain place in the pipeline so that you can only select those that need to go. Is there a place in CRM that shows, okay, there are a bunch of parents who essentially are languishing in terms of not doing anything? Is there a place for me to indicate in the pipeline who they are and what kind, so that I can target just to them?
Yeah, you can have some triggers sent on a certain stage of the pipeline. So let's say they get through your nurture campaign and then you put them in a stage that's like, I would call it what you want, like nudge in a month or something, whatever you want to call that stage in the pipeline. And then you can have triggers set, like if someone's been sitting there in that same stage for a month, then send them another email and then put them in another, move them to the next stage, which is then maybe in 3 or 4 months, then you reach out again if you haven't heard from them. But then the important thing is, if they do respond, you want to make sure that it's set up to take them out of that stage and put them back into active inquiry or something like that, so that they're not, following down that path of being, I don't know, unengaged, I guess is a nice way to put it.
We call them inactive.
Yeah.
I understand that there is a charge involved in sending emails through CRM.
Very minimal charge, yes.
Okay, so we can find out what the charge structure is, right, from somebody.
Yeah, I don't have it right at my fingertips, but
I think my cell has it. I can get it from him.
Yeah, it should be very, very low, Wally. It's like a couple bucks a month, maybe.
I see.
Yeah.
And the final question is there a video or a kind of a primer CRM that shows you what all the features are and how you can effectively use them? Because we have CRM installed, and we have the automated email generated functions are there, but I believe we are only using very minimal. We are not using all the features, and it'd be nice to know what they are so that we can make sure we can leverage it properly. Is there anything available?
Yeah. Have you been to help.nidomarketing.com?
No.
So that's our knowledge base. And there's a whole section on the CRM with a bunch of how to do this, how to do that, help videos. So that's a good place to start, with the caveat that we are in the process of updating it, because the CRM is changing, getting updated as well. And so sometimes the help videos lag that a little bit.
It's not just a matter of help, how to do this or how to do that. The question is, if we have this CRM capability, I wanted more like a holistic approach in terms of, how do you really make it function for you in the best possible way. It was more of an overall, more encompassing view of how to effectively use CRM, not just how to use a certain function.
Yeah, I believe that is in there, but there is also a document, I'm trying to find it, that I wrote a while ago, that is kind of CRM best practices.
It's on Thrive. I can email it to you, Wally, because it's a really comprehensive. It breaks down every way that you can use the CRM in the best way to basically nurture your leads. This presentation is a very brief summary of that document in some senses, but that one really breaks everything down into bullet points into what approaches you can take, how you can maximize it. And then if you're looking to just get a couple of tutorials on how to actually use the features, you can use the help and Nido Marketing, because that has all the recordings, correct, Camille?
Yeah, yep.
And who is the correct contact point in your organization to work with very, very specific questions that one might have?
Who's your support manager?
I guess would that be myself then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'll make a note, Wally, to email you the CRM best practice resource as well. So I'll send that to you after the town hall.
Thanks.
Oh, hold on. Before I move on, let me talk about that slide. So CRM and admissions. Now let's take a look at how a CRM can help you simplify and automate your admissions process. Hopefully also this will partially answer your question, Wally, because we'll talk a little bit about kind of the all-encompassing use of a CRM and how it works. So again, we're just revisiting this. And the great thing about working with CRM software or anything like that, rather than using an Excel spreadsheet or doing everything manually, is you can really do a lot to customize it. So this is just, our version of the admissions process. It might be different at your school. And we've set up our CRM to work under these categories. So I'll show you how that looks. So here, as you can see, is our admissions pipeline, and it'll show all of those steps. So we go from active inquiries to tour schedules to tour complete to application submitted, and we can move the contacts, those leads that come through that pipeline, and they can get tailored information based off of where they are in that pipeline. This gives you just a visual overview of all the opportunities that you have, and it helps you organize and just keep track of everything without having to input it manually. I see here in the chat. Can you please clarify Nido's difference in definition of lead versus inquiry? A lead is they're very similar. A lead is somebody who just comes in through your website who has shown interest. And an inquiry is somebody who has filled out a form and actually reached out to your school. So that's somebody who has filled out a contact information form, asked a question, and basically has initiated direct communication with your school.
Yeah, I mean, the way I would kind of define them is a lead is a prospective parent is a lead until they are an enrolled parent. And an inquiry is kind of the first stage of your admissions process, your admissions pipeline. So they're an inquiry, and then maybe they schedule a tour, and then they're not really an inquiry anymore. They're moving along in the pipeline. But a lead is what they are until they're not a lead anymore, until they're enrolled.
So you wouldn't really have a category on your CRM for lead. Instead, it's more helpful if you have they're at that inquiry stage, or they're at the tour scheduled or tour complete. And then once they enroll, once they, sign a contract or, pay their tuition, they're no longer a lead at that point. They're an enrolled family. Again, you can modify the stages of your admissions pipeline, and you can, this is where, for instance, as Wally mentioned, if you have somebody who, you sent all their campaigns to, and you can say, still might be just inactive, but maybe still interested, or you can edit and design your admissions pipeline the way that you want it and the way that works for your school. Now let's break it down a little bit and talk about how to take advantage of each stage of the funnel or pipeline. A funnel and pipeline they work very similarly in the sense of this is how we're going to take care of this particular lead at this stage of their process. Best practices. Let's talk about leads, or when it comes to just the overall, how you're going to approach your leads throughout the admissions process. So each lead magnet requires a tailored response in the CRM. When it comes to utilizing lead magnets, again, immediate sending is important, so using the automations. Create an opportunity under leads for tracking purposes. After the lead delivery campaign completes, you can drop the contact into a subsequent campaign called a nurture campaign. A nurture campaign will educate the parent about Montessori and your school. You can have a variety of different nurture campaigns, and I'll give an example of one later. Be sure to keep this parent on your email list for notifications about upcoming events, such as open houses, blog posts, and application deadlines. Basically, once a lead comes in through your website, regardless of where they are in the pipeline, it's good to keep them on some sort of email list, whether that's just, it can just be your newsletter that you send out maybe once a month. But make sure they're hearing from you until they unsubscribe. Basically assume that they're interested in hearing from you until they hit that unsubscribe. A parent may stay in the top of your funnel for months. This happens a lot. But by continuing to provide them with interesting educational and relevant information, you'll stand out as a true potential partner in their child's education. A lot of parents are forgetful. They might be looking one day online and seriously trying to, do their research, and then they get caught up in something else and life gets busy. And then they look in their inbox and they receive another email from you that they may not have opened an email from you in months, but it takes just one to remind them and maybe encourage them to reach out. And again, it's important to have that unsubscribe option at the bottom of your emails if you don't already, because if a parent is genuinely not wanting to hear from you, there's no point in them receiving your emails. They're not going to enroll. They should be able to unsubscribe. When it comes to that first inquiry stage in your pipeline, it's important to send automated confirmation emails. Again, if they fill out a contact form, you can immediately send, "Thank you so much for your inquiry. Our team will be back with you as soon as possible to answer your question." If they schedule a tour, they should receive an immediate confirmation. At any stage, they should receive something automatically. Send a notification email to yourself with the contents of their form so that you can respond to them as soon as possible. You can also do this with the CRM. You can create an opportunity under inquiries for tracking purposes. And then you can remove this contact from any existing nurture campaign once they hear back from you. Because of course, if they already heard back from you personally and they're just receiving more automated things that are not relevant anymore, it looks unprofessional. So once you're moving them to the next stage, you can stop the trigger for that campaign and start another one perhaps. Or just, maybe they're scheduled a tour and it's more one-on-one communication at that point. So when it comes to scheduling a tour, if you have automated tour scheduling on your website, which I highly recommend that you do, because parents should be able to schedule a tour with you really easily. If not, you're just creating obstacles. A scheduled tour will come in through your website via a tour scheduler. This is usually a parent who's very interested. If if they're earlier in their decision-making stage, they might fill out an inquiry form or just the contact form, or maybe download a white paper. But someone who's agreeing to basically come to your school physically is someone who's really considering it. So it's recommended to automate your tour scheduling process if you don't have that already. Best practices for what happens after a parent automatically schedules a tour. You should send that automated confirmation. It should be, you have scheduled a tour with our school on this date at this time. Location, directions, and any other relevant information that they would need to know. After that, you can remove this contact from any existing nurture campaign. So let's say you had them, on a basic marketing email campaign, they've scheduled a tour, which was what you wanted them to do. Now you can remove them from that and have them come in for a tour and then decide where to take it from there. You can create an opportunity under tour scheduled for tracking purposes, so you can move that person there. Send a reminder email a day before the tour. It also always helps to send in a personalized email. I think you can make a note once a parent schedules a tour. You can send in a personalized email just to check in with them and see if they have any questions before the tour. You'll send an automated reminder as well, maybe 24 hours before the actual physical tour is meant to take place. And you can send an email or SMS 1 or 2 hours before the tour with the appointment details and if they're going to cancel last minute to let you know. This also just helps us save valuable time because tour cancellations do happen, and it's better to have someone cancel 24 hours in advance and just not show up. So give them the option by reaching out and reminding. After you have the tour, you can then move them into that tour completed section of the pipeline if you have something like that in your personalized pipeline. You can then, fill in some notes on the family and the student. You would have learned more about them, hopefully. You can kind of gauge whether they would be a good fit for your community and vice versa. And you can add them to an automated tour follow-up email campaign, inviting them to submit an application or to take the next step in the admissions process. It's also great, in my opinion, to just do a personalized follow-up after the tour. So maybe you can set a reminder to call the family a couple days after the tour just to check in and see where their thoughts are and if they want to join your wait list or if they want to submit an application, or if they're interested. But you can also just trigger an email campaign. So an application has been submitted. You can then move that opportunity or lead into the application submitted column. You can review the application then and decide if you'd like to schedule a visit for the child. If you do that at your school, maybe you do this earlier in the tour process. You can decide based on what works best for your community. And you can configure a separate calendar in the CRM for scheduling child visits. If that's something that you do want to do through the CRM, you can also do that. And you may email the parent and link this scheduler so that they can easily schedule a time that works for them. And really, when an application is submitted, this is more where you get to decide, or maybe you add them to your wait list, or you can enroll them immediately. It's really up to you and what your school needs. If you do a child visit, like a tour, you can send an automated confirmation email. Again, just the same way that you would a parent tour, including all the information that they would need in advance. And you can include links so they can reschedule or cancel their appointment as needed. Don't forget at this point to move the opportunity under child visits, and you can take notes on the child and you can input that into your note section. If applicable, you can send a reminder email to the classroom teacher as well, where the child will be visiting. Sometimes our schools are small enough to where we can just go up to the teacher and say, oh, we have a child visit on this day, this day, this day. Sometimes we're working in much bigger schools where it helps to just have everything automated. You can send an email or SMS to, again, 1 or 2 hours before that visit with appointment details. It's best to just do the last minute reminders. Your enrollment offer. You can also automate this process and make it a lot easier for yourself. If you're a bigger school, it might be helpful to do this. You can send a templated email to the parent notifying them your offer. You can say, we're willing to give your child the spot at our school. This is the enrollment offer. It can include the information on how to enroll, links to your online enrollment system if you have one, etc. You can then move them to that enrollment offer column. They're, reaching that final stage. You've nurtured them all the way through. And you can continue to monitor these opportunities and ensure your parents complete this last important step. I think by having a pipeline as well, it helps because you can monitor and see what are the stages that you're losing the most people on. What are the stages that are the most turbulent? If you have a lot of people who drop off at this point, you can revise and see how can we improve this step, or how can we improve the tour, the pre-tour communication or post-tour communication. So again, it's just great to have that pipeline and keep it updated and well organized. Hopefully by the end of this, it ends in enrollment and you've successfully enrolled a new child into your program. You can celebrate and move them along the pipeline so you can keep track of all of your new enrollments, which hopefully are a lot once you find a system that works, get in the rhythm of it, use email nurtures accordingly, and hopefully communicate with those prospective families in an effective way, because choosing a school is a big decision and a big commitment. I want to talk a little bit more about email marketing, because really I think that this is one of the most effective ways to nurture your leads. You're putting a lot of effort, hopefully, into creating great lead magnets and generators, and hopefully you're getting those inquiries through. You want to make sure that your email marketing is actually providing value and doesn't come across as salesy, because that really doesn't work great in the Montessori space necessarily. So CRM can be used for so much more than just admissions. It can be a great tool for email marketing and retention as well. Emails are really great because they're personal and they can be a great resource for you to keep leads informed and engaged. So growing your email list, this is going to be done through the use of online forms, lead magnets, incentives that you can offer on your website, and newsletter signups if you have that on your website as well. You own your email list and it's free to use. You should always have a couple of ways to grow your email list on your website. Again, this is a list of contacts that have shown interest and engaged with your school directly. So this is a valuable list of people, and these are, your biggest opportunities for enrollment. And make sure you're actually using this email list. If you're collecting all of this data and then letting it sit in your, on an Excel spreadsheet, and you're not actually emailing these people, they might forget about you and move on. So it always helps to, be reaching out to people consistently and keeping communication open. Email nurtures. All right, let's talk about it. Email nurtures are campaigns that you send a specific contact or group of contacts that are going to encourage them to take the next step. And the next step can be different. Maybe it's, you're trying to raise money for your school. Maybe you're trying to get them to enroll. Maybe you're trying to get them to schedule a tour. Maybe you're trying to retain them for that third year of kindergarten, which is always tricky. So there's a variety of email nurtures that you can create for your school. Here are just a couple of examples of what kind of email nurtures you can have. Why Montessori? Why should a parent choose Montessori? This can be for somebody who requested a very basic lead, like a white paper. Tour scheduling. What happens when a parent schedules a tour? You're going to nurture them hopefully into submitting an application. Join our wait list. Parenting classes. Maybe your current community, they might be forgetful about your parenting classes. If you offer this, you can create an email nurture that triggers at the beginning of the month that you're offering these classes, and just to constantly remind parents, this is why we want everyone to come. This is the value. This is what you're going to be learning. This is what you're going to be taking away. You can create an email nurture. You can also do it for retention. We have a template for the importance of the kindergarten year email nurture, and on Montessori Thrive. If you're a member, you can download those templates. And again, fundraising. So you can use them for a variety of purposes. This is a sample email nurture. We actually have this entire 6 email template on Montessori Thrive. I just pulled the first example, but if you want the full template, just go on Montessori Thrive and you'll be able to download it. But this is the perfect marketing formula email nurture. The first email, we're delivering the asset. So we're delivering that white paper or whatever content they requested. In the second email, we're, explaining the problem and solution. The problem is the parent needs a great educational program for their kid, and the solution is something that we have as Montessori educators. So we're solving a problem that they have. Number 3 is a testimonial email. Here we're offering social proof and success stories from our community so parents can see how well our communities have worked for other families. Number 4, overcome an objection. Usually the biggest pain point is tuition. So you can, have an email on the real value of Montessori, why it's worth what it costs, or you can talk about a different pain point that you experience a lot or a misconception. So you can talk about that in the 4th email. Number 5 is a paradigm shift. What sets your school apart? How are you different than a traditional school? How are you different than, other school options such as, Waldorf? What makes Montessori special? And then 6 is your sales letter where you close the deal. Every single one of the emails at the end should encourage parents to take the next step. Here in email 1, just a little sample here, it says in this email, it says here, it's very short and sweet. Hi, first name, thank you for your interest in our school. You'll find the resource you requested attached to the email. We hope that this helps and that you find the right school for your child. Kind regards. Then maybe a day or 2 later, they're going to receive a problem and solution email, and etc. But this is basically the structure of an email nurture and how it will work, and how you'll hopefully lead that parent into an enrollment, which is our goal. Any questions? And again, if you create a really good email nurture, you sit down and write the 6 emails, you only have to write them once, and then they can go out to 50 leads. So you don't have to sit down and write every single one manually. It saves a lot of time that way. And of course, if you're a Montessori Thrive member, you can just download the templates and add in your information and you're ready to go. So if you need templates, again, they're on Montessori Thrive. We have a bunch of email marketing templates. We have that perfect marketing formula one. We have retention templates. We have our tour cancellation. So what happens if a parent cancels a tour? You want to hopefully remind them to reschedule or to come in and change their mind. We have a template for that. So you can use a variety of different email nurtures and you can find them on Thrive. If you don't find one for any reason that you want, you can always request one. And we'll ask other schools if they either have that already or we'll create it for you. So definitely use our resource exchange if you want to save yourself some time. And again, as we mentioned earlier, when Wally asked his question about what happens when you have an inactive person, well, you can send everyone your newsletter always. Sending regular newsletters with compelling content and links back to your website, whether that's your blog, whether that's, any kind of information that you're offering, link people back to your website and encourage parents to return to that website and hopefully take the next step, whether that's schedule a tour. So you can always continue to just send your entire email list the newsletter. The aim is to entice parents back to your website so they can further advance in that funnel, in that pipeline to enroll. Share all events. If you have any upcoming events, send them to all of your contacts. Things like fundraisers, open houses, information sessions, parenting events. If they're open to everyone, you can always send it to your entire email list, whether that's no matter where they are in the pipeline or if they're already enrolled or not. All of these are a great way to bring in the wider community and inspire parents to learn more about your school, your programs, and that can also be a way to hopefully get them to enroll. Deadline notifications, this is another thing you can trigger through your CRM. Sometimes parents are forgetful and they need that little push. So for instance, if you had a parent that seemed extremely interested, they came in for a tour, you can have an email formatted like, oh, by the way, our application deadline is coming up. So did you want to send in an application before it cuts off for the school year? So it's a polite way to remind parents to submit an application. Don't let those families fall through the cracks. And you can create a sense of urgency. This might be that final push a parent may need to either submit an application or go ahead and enroll. So add a little bit of, gentle reminders in your email marketing sometimes is good. Beyond the email nurture, once a lead has completed your initial nurture, don't forget about them. Continue to email them. I would say, depending on how recent they are, once a week if they were super recent, maybe then you can move them to once every 3 months or once every 4 months until they unsubscribe or they reach out to you personally saying, oh, we're no longer interested, thank you. But you can always check in with them. Also, maybe that parent went and they enrolled in another school and they're starting to realize they're not happy with their choice. And then, 3 months later, they get an email from your school and they're like, oh, I remember them. Maybe it's worth me reconsidering them after all. So this is, why it's important to always be finding ways to, continuing that nurturing process, even when it's been months until they say we're no longer interested or we've decided this is not for us or we're moving in the end, we're not going to be here anymore. Continue to reach out to them. Any questions about email marketing or using a CRM? I don't know if you use a CRM at your school. I know it's a lot of information.
One question I have about CRM is, does it have some sort of a reporting function? And what I specifically mean by that is, if I want to know, for example, in 2023, how many parents inquired about the school, how many parents actually visited the school, how many parents enrolled, so that I can know in hindsight, how did I do in terms of my overall marketing effect? And if I do it like year after year, I have a way to compare. Am I doing better? I'm doing worse, and things like that. So is there any function that is available that I could use to do this kind of analysis?
Yeah, you can you can track those kinds of things through the CRM metrics, correct, Camille? Oh,
I haven't quite figured it out yet. I'm sure, hopefully there is something.
yeah, there is. If you go on the, sorry,
Sorry,
Camille, I think you were
muted.
muted.
I never mute myself, but that's fine. Right on the dashboard, you can see that, and you can filter by date. So you can do like this
Okay.
year or any,
Okay.
any date range there.
It will show you graphs, percentages,
Okay. All
all
right.
of the metrics. If that's something, if you're very data driven like that, and that helps to sometimes
I mean,
see how you
in the past, I have done this basically through spreadsheet.
right.
But obviously I had to go and manually put all the people who came in and this and that, and then do this. But if for something already in CRM, that would make it a lot easier.
Right. If you keep track, if you keep track of your contacts and you're always updating where they are in the pipeline, it will upload that data without you having to
Right.
manually input it like you would on a spreadsheet. So that will help you
Right.
hopefully.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's talk a little bit about wait list management. Hopefully you've gotten to the point where you have a wait list. I know this is a goal for many schools. And then usually when your wait list is big enough, you can expand your school. But effectively managing a wait list is crucial for a Montessori school to ensure that smooth enrollment process. Because you don't want to give parents a negative experience with a wait list either, because that makes your school look bad and they could get angry, and we want to avoid that. So here's just some best practices for waitlist management. Number one is clear communication. And this is really the key to all sorts of lead nurturing, is clear and transparent communication. So it's important to set expectations early on about how your waitlist works, when parents are going to hear from you, because they need to know, because if they cannot ensure a spot for their child, they need to make other arrangements. So those timely updates and regular communication is important, and firm deadlines. That's also important for you to have usually written down somewhere, so that if a parent says, oh my gosh, I really want a spot, but I couldn't get, why is it not allowing me to submit something? Well, we had a deadline that already passed to join our wait list, and unfortunately it's closed. You can try again next year. So again, it's important to have everything clearly communicated and accessible for parents to see, just to avoid any anger or disappointment. You want to maintain an organized system. Use a CRM or software to track your wait list. You can do this. Some people do it manually as well. If that still works for you, great. If you want to, automate it, you can do that as well, or just keep it all in one place under your CRM. It's also always great to use fair and non-discriminatory practices. Waitlist management should always be fair. You don't want to have any accusations against your school. It's best to, I know some schools will do things like a lottery system. Sometimes it will be order of application, but you decide something that is fair and just for every applicant. It's also great to offer alternatives if your school is completely full and there's not going to be enough room for everyone on the wait list. And you can offer parents, we weren't able to find a spot for your child this year, but here are some alternatives that are really great in our area. And you can give them a list of resources. Or maybe you can say our full-time program isn't available, but we have a part-time program. And maybe then in a year, we'll be ready to revisit a spot for a full-time program. You can talk about things like that too as alternatives. So think about what you can offer families instead. This will also, again, just help with frustration and that parent's experience, because you don't want to give a current parent a bad experience, but you also don't want to give a prospective parent a bad experience, because that word of mouth usually spreads quicker than good word of mouth, unfortunately. And again, the consistent communication, keep waitlisters informed on school news and events, keep them on your newsletters, and just make sure you give them plenty of time to, again, make the alternative arrangements if they need to. Are there any other tips anyone has to share when it comes to waitlist management?
One thing we used to do was just call it a wait pool. So did you mention that already, Camilla?
I said something about like it being like a lottery system or something.
Yeah, because it's, sometimes parents will get the idea that it's, first in, first out kind of thing. And we know that there's a lot of different factors that go into making up a classroom in a Montessori, age and everything. So just so they don't get the idea that it's first in, first out, and that it's like a waiting pool. And so that gives you a little bit more leeway in managing the list.
Absolutely. You don't want a primary classroom full of just 6-year-olds. It wouldn't be the same. All right. I asked that question. If anyone else has anything to share. I think really a wait list is a blessing and a curse, because it means your programs are full, you're running at full capacity, which is great, but also you want to make sure to keep every parent, even prospective parents, happy and give everyone a good experience. So it's important to manage that in a way that is respectful to their time and if they need to make other arrangements. All right, I'll stop sharing my screen, and I know we covered a lot today. This is a big topic. This is really a lot of beef in the Montessori marketing space. It's the meat of it, is the nurturing process. Because again, we're not salesy people. We're not selling a product. It's a big decision for parents to make, and we want to make sure that our communication is consistent and effective every step of the way when we're marketing to them. Also, I just want to mention we have a forum on Montessori Thrive if you want to ask questions in regards to anything we discuss and at these town halls, and in our Facebook group that we're happy to answer, or you can reach out to me personally. Next week is going to be our last town hall of 2024, and then we'll let you guys enjoy a much needed winter break, which I'm sure you're looking forward to. And it's going to be a very casual town hall you can join to talk about. It's going to be very general, what you've accomplished this year as a school leader, what are your goals for the coming year, any questions that you have about school leadership, and it can be about anything. It could be about admissions, it can be about staffing, it could be about parent communication. So feel free to come with your questions, comments, and experiences from the 2023 year. And yeah, after that, we'll be back in the new year for more town halls. All right. Any other questions? I want to pause one more time. Thank you, Beth, and thank you, Vicky. Thank you for everyone who joined. This recording will be on our YouTube channel, so if you want to take notes or revisit anything we discussed, you can check it out there later today. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Hopefully everyone enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.